Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. I'm Joe Samriego. With me, we have Nicole Fry from Fans in Focus and Mara Yacentino here to discuss Formula One Spanish Grand Prix qualifying. Looking like it's going to be a very exciting race. Encourage everyone to comment in the chat room with your thoughts, opinions, and questions. And a big thank you to our Patreon investors calling the show, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew. You two can invest in us, get some Grid Network stickers. Robin upped her investment by another $5 a month. Thank you so much, Robin, for supporting us. You can also do Buy Me a Coffee or Super Chat. Wednesday, Astro Police, Super Chat, $20 for everyone on Grid tonight. We're sending it to everyone on the team there. So big thank you to everyone investing into Grid Network. It means the world to us that you enjoy our race coverage. Nicole, Mara, Formula One, and this Spanish Grand Prix, it looks like it's going to be a very exciting one. First practice, Lando Norris, fastest ahead of Max Verstappen. Sainz, Russell, Perez, they were your top five in that first practice. The second practice, I was really curious to see what would happen, and we saw Lewis Hamilton, the Mercedes. People wondered where that Mercedes team has been. Canada did look better. Well, he was the fastest ahead of Sainz and Norris. Gasly in the Alpine. And then Max Verstappen, again, that was your top five in the second practice. Third practice, Sainz, Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen. Looked like Ferrari was back, but then qualifying, we knew it would be incredibly close, and it turned out qualifying confirmed Norris ahead of Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton. They're going to be hard to beat where we got Lewis Hamilton, George Russell in that second row. Such a small distance between the top starters. I got to say, starting with you, Nicole, your reaction to qualifying results of Lando Norris starting ahead of Max Verstappen.
I think it is very exciting. It's what fans have been wanting this season. We've wanted more competition. We've wanted more excitement. And to see it just happen at the very last moment in qualifying was amazing to see. And I think Lando Norris is one of those drivers where when he has a good weekend, he has a fantastic weekend. So this just bodes well, and it's going to make for a very exciting race.
Yes, he did an amazing job, amazing lap. He deserves absolutely the pole. He also received, I just saw on TV, some help by an Alpine. But yeah, that every corner, as he was saying, was done in the right way. So he deserves the pole, and he deserves to have a great race. I mean, McLaren demonstrated that they were strong for the whole weekend. Every session they were on the top. So absolutely well done from Lando and the team.
Lando and that team have been doing very well. It seems after Miami, getting that win, there just seemed to be some booming confidence there. The last race weekend in Canada, looked like could almost pull out win. Didn't exactly work out with the time of that safety car, but that McLaren team is still looking strong. I'm starting to convince they could be the number one challenger against Red Bull, because Ferrari, they're still up there, but essentially what we saw, as I mentioned, an all Mercedes second row and an all Ferrari third row. And I was surprised because Carlos Sainz, he looked fast. Qualifying though, I mean, all of them in the 1 minute 12 second range. It is just insane how fast and close the competition is between them. I got to ask you, Mara, do you think Mercedes may have the upper hand, the advantage over Ferrari in this race?
Yes, definitely. Even Mercedes with Hamilton on top was really strong in Barcelona. So, yeah, I think that in this case, Mercedes has something more than Ferrari.
Absolutely. Mercedes, their speed this weekend has been unreal. I don't know if it's upgrades they've brought or just a shift in their mentality, or if they're just really feeling like they have to fight for the win or any points that they can scrape by this weekend. But they are on track to definitely have a very good race if their pace continues.
Their pace is looking good. A lot of folks, I think, will be excited to see if Lewis Hamilton could get a podium, or even better, contend for a win, just because it's been such a while. It'll be really interesting to see Ferrari. I'm really curious because it seemed like after Monaco, we all thought this is the Ferrari they've been working on getting, the Ferrari that could go out there, get the race wins. And then we haven't seen that at Montreal. Granted, weather was a big challenge for them. This race weekend, it just seems like Mercedes seems to have something. And now that it's been all dry conditions, seems a little bit more real. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Of course, Carlos Sainz, we know as fast as he's been all weekend, this is the last time he'll come to Barcelona as a Ferrari driver because one of the big surprises, Williams is now one of the lead contenders for his services next year. We've heard about Sauber, which will turn to Audi F1, Carlos Sainz going there, but potentially Williams now entering the picture. I have to ask you, Nicole, were you surprised with Williams coming out as a potential team for Carlos Sainz?
I am definitely not surprised that Williams is interested in Carlos Sainz. I think everyone is to a certain degree. He's a fantastic racer. He comes from a long line of racers within his family. He knows how to handle himself in a team amongst change. He has shown time and time again that he's able to come into a team and adapt quickly. So I can see where that would be very appealing for Williams. I'm a little bit more shocked that Williams is more so a contender for Carlos Sainz just from his point of view. But I think when there's so few places where he can really end up, his main priority needs to be getting with a team that will support him in all aspects. They don't just want him there just for show. I think Williams would be really interested in working with him to develop their car and their program further. And I think that partnership is what he's looking for. So in that way, I'm not entirely surprised.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Nicole. It's not a surprise for Williams, and I think that in this moment, Sainz is a little bit in difficulty because he knows that Mercedes has closed doors for him. Same for Red Bull, Ferrari again, nothing, and also McLaren doesn't. So he cannot achieve right now a top class team. So he has these options.
Yeah, I have to say, at least with Williams, it looked like they are putting their best effort and improving. But this weekend qualifying, unfortunately for Williams, they're both in the back row. Albon 19th, Logan Sargent in 20th. Let's keep talking about folks in the standings, but outside the top 10. This I find surprising. Oliver Berman did one race. He is still 12th in the standings, and we've already done 9 races. He's still ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. He's ahead of Alex Albon from Williams, both Alpine drivers. Bearman, I'm just surprised. One race out of 9, and he's still 12th in the points. Mara, considering the way qualifying has gone, the field is so tight. Do you anticipate Bearman keeping 12th place in the standings after Barcelona? Or do you think a driver is going to score more points and get around him?
Well, he's in his second race, so if he keeps in the 12th place, it will be a great achievement.
Definitely. I think it's going to be very interesting coming away from Barcelona, especially with the potential change in weather conditions, to see if there's any incidents on track, to see if there is any slips of the wheel and some cars thrown into those nasty gravel traps. If that is the case, I think there's a good chance and a good likelihood that Ollie will keep his 12th position, but only time will tell. This is going to be a very interesting race and a very interesting track where it kind of plays out on. And so I think we'll just have to wait and see.
I think that's a good point. You mentioned about the weather, the forecast for Barcelona, Spain, looking at about between 33% chance of rain to up to 43% chance of rain. It's going to be very interesting to see how it turns out. And today was such a sunny, dry conditions. One driver I feel probably does not want to talk about rain, especially after last weekend, Sergio Perez. After signing the new contract, Canada was a horrible weekend. Performance at Barcelona overall has been good. 13 starts, and he has finished in the points 10 times. Second place 2 years ago, fourth place last year. This year, right now, he qualified 8th, so not exactly the best position. But I feel this is one of those tracks where he could work his way to the front, just have a clean start. Overall, do you think, Nicole, Sergio Perez needs to have a strong points day?
Oh, absolutely. And not only that, but we, I think, are forgetting as well that Sergio is taking a 3-place grid penalty because of Canada.
Mhm.
And so he's actually going to start, I believe, P11, meaning that he's not just like in the points position already and he just has to stay there. He has to get there. And he's going to have to maintain that throughout the race, which seems to be a struggle for him consistently this season. So he definitely needs to have a good weekend. He needs to get some points, I think, not only for himself and his future, despite the fact that he has a contract, but also for Red Bull, because as we kind of discussed earlier, now there's some questions about like who is really going to be challenging Red Bull for the constructors and for the title championship this year, because McLaren is getting up there in points and a couple other teams are definitely eyeing them as well. And if he cannot get points consistently, that is going to be a major issue for their team moving forward into the summer.
Yeah, absolutely, he has to, because we all thought that maybe his bad results were due to the fact that he was not sure about his future. But now he is. Now he knows that he has a 2-year contract, so we do expect more from him. So he needs to stay closer to Verstappen.
Staying closer to Verstappen, that'll be the best way to secure his future and climb up the points too. Second place last year. I know it's hard to beat Max Verstappen in the point standing, but if you finish second last year, just the anticipation you're going to be second again or closer to Max. The way it's going right now is not that great. One team that I think has to be feeling great after qualifying, the Alpine team. Both cars in Q3, Ocon's ninth, and Gasly is ahead of him, starting 7th in the race. But then you look on the opposite side of the grid, both V carbs, 17th and 18th for Yuki and Daniel Ricciardo. But here's the thing, you look at 7th place time down to last place, all of them less than a second apart, considering their Q1, Q2, Q3. Also surprised we didn't see that big, huge track evolution from Q1 to Q3 like we do in the other tracks. So behind the Alpines, you got essentially Aston Martin, Williams, Haas, both V carbs. Mara, which team do you think is likely to get in the points out of those starters in the back?
Well, that's tough, but I think I will go with Haas. I think that both of them can have better chances than V carbs and Williams, honestly.
I would definitely agree. I think Haas has a real shot at points this year, or at least at this racetrack. And I also think Aston Martin, their pace was good. I think they need to keep it up throughout the rest of the weekend. But if they're able to stay on top of it, they could come away with some decently good points and finish positions.
Haas, they have to be feeling pretty good. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen. Valtteri Bottas, starting 12th, of course, when you put into effect Perez's penalty, he goes up to 11. So if he could have a good race, no trouble, and especially no bad pit stops, I'm curious to see what he could do. Overall, it's going to be really interesting to see. And one of the big topics, talking about all the teams going around, is just something that we first were made aware of yesterday from one of our colleagues, an email from Mercedes. Well, one of the big news that then was confirmed, Mercedes had called the police after an apparent email leak. The email claimed that Mercedes was sabotaging Lewis Hamilton. It was sent to the same list of F1 representatives and media members that received a screenshot following the Christian Horner investigation. This email claims that it's from a Mercedes team member, but Toto denies it, saying he takes this very seriously, especially since it was talking about life-threatening and all that. Nicole, does this raise a concern that someone or a few individuals might be working to organize these email leaks within the F1 paddock?
Definitely. I think on all sides, it's very concerning, not only just the way that this has been happening consistently throughout the season. This is not the first time, as we're well aware, but also just the intensity potentially of what is allegedly in these email correspondence, because these are not just silly little rumors that, are kind of tossed away. When you are potentially alleging that someone is being put into a very dangerous position intentionally by a team, that is a very serious matter. It's a very serious claim. And so with these emails, there is, I think, the question of who is sending them, why are they sending them, and why are they claiming to be a Mercedes team member? I believe in the first round of screenshots that was sent, no one really took claim for it as far as where it came from or its origin. So there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of red flags. I think personally, the most important thing to keep in mind is that this is a very serious issue and it's being taken very seriously. It was the first time and it is being handled that way again by another team. I do find it interesting that out of all of the information, there are specific teams they seem to be targeting deliberately and certain people potentially in those teams. But all things considered, we do need to keep in mind that this is alleged, and regardless, it is a very serious allegation if it does come out to even be potentially true, or if not, it is a very serious case potentially of slander and potentially has suits for a defamation lawsuit potentially coming their way.
Yeah, absolutely. He must have to be taken in serious consideration because up to now we always had some rumors coming from the press, but now there are emails going to the press. So yeah, the game has changed since the Horner thing. So now we have to be very careful to what it's communicated from these people, because it can really bring to lawsuits, as Nicole was saying. So it's difficult.
The game has changed. I think that's a really great point. And one of the things, I know a lot of organizations, especially in the United States, motorsports organizations, if you're an employee and you get caught leaking information, that's automatic termination. I would assume be the same there. And if they find it was a team member, that person's gonna lose their job. But I'm really curious because hearing some of this stuff is like, okay, is there somebody that people are leaking this information and this person's being that person to leak out the news? It just seems very serious compared to, like, for instance, in the United States, we know people will talk to Jenna Fry or Bob Pockrass of here's what's going on, and then you see on the Athletic or the Associated Press, just to get sent emails to F1 representative teams and look what's going on. This is definitely something out of the ordinary, and I just do not see this being a good thing going forward. I think it's just, in my opinion, be more suited if reporters find out rather than some middle person trying to play information control, especially such serious situations. And of course, we'll be following this on Grid Tonight, Grid Network right here. So be sure to subscribe all week so you don't miss anything from our recap shows, Grid Tonight, and of course our games, including Pick a Winner. So let's get started with Pick a Winner. Of course, we got a big race weekend. Taking a look at the scoreboard, Matthew continues to lead. Right now, a bonus point for your first correct guess. You're outside the top 20. A bonus point for each correct guess until you get in the top 20. And in case you're wondering, Kiska, the Grid Network dog, she's just picking Max Verstappen all year long. So every time Max wins, she gets 9 wins already won this month. Pretty impressive record. So let's start off with Formula One. Mara, who do you think is going to win the Spanish Grand Prix?
I will not get fooled and say Max Verstappen.
I'm going to have to go with Lando Norris. I'm hopeful that pole is promising. We'll see if it lasts.
Oh, man. I'm going to go with a surprise. I think George Russell is going to break through. My prediction, I wonder if Lando and Max might have a first lap incident like Mercedes did a few years ago here. And George Russell, I think, could be the lead Mercedes driver. Now, of course, if Max Verstappen wins, that means Kiska gets a point, but then everyone can still get a point through pick 7th place. That leaderboard, we don't have a graphic for it. I keep meaning to make one. Isha, Ben, and Jackson Lambros are all tied with the lead with 2 picks for 7th place. Amazing. So it's still very early on. So Mara, starting with you, who's going to finish 7th place in the Spanish Grand Prix?
I want to give credit to Gasly.
Ooh, that is a good pick. I think 7th place is really tricky at Barcelona just because we don't know what the track or the weather is really going to shape up like. I'm going to have to say I will pick Sergio Perez.
Wow, Perez. Yeah, this is going to be very tricky. This one, I think I'll go with Fernando Alonso to get 7th. I know he'll be a bit disappointed in his home race, but overall, we'll see what happens. We got 2 more races, IndyCar and NASCAR. Nicole, when it comes to IndyCar, you have any predictions for that race? They're going to be racing Sunday at Laguna Seca.
I do not. I don't have any predictions. I think I just like going into Laguna Seca with an open mind because that track is so amazing and it is just, who knows what's going to happen at Laguna Seca. It's always very exciting. So I'm going to enjoy the race and see how it plays out.
Mara, I know you don't follow too much the IndyCar and NASCAR side, but when it comes to pick a winners, any wild guesses you want to make as well too? We've seen some people pick random NASCAR drivers and they win, like Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson. No. All right. I know for IndyCar, I'm going with Laguna Seca, Alex Palou. NASCAR, I'm going to go over with the driver of the number 4, Josh Berry, to get the surprise win. So it'll be really interesting to see how NASCAR IndyCar will shape up. And in the chat room, a couple of comments. Adam has picked 7th place, George Russell. Surprised that was my pick a winner. And then for the race winners, Max Verstappen, Alex Palou, Martin Truex Jr. Now, of course, IndyCar, they're going to be at Laguna Seca. They've only done 1 practice session so far. Scott McLaughlin is ahead of Colton Herta, Alex Palou, Justin Newgarden, and Pietro Fittipaldi, your top 5 from practice yesterday on June 21st, Summer Solstice Day. So happy Summer Solstice to everyone. Second practice coming up later today, as long as qualifying. This is the first time Laguna Seca is hosting IndyCar and not the season-ending race in quite some time, especially since IndyCar started coming back here. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens. The NASCAR Cup Series in New Hampshire, they're going to be qualifying in practicing in about 10 minutes on the USA Network. And then, of course, about an hour from that, qualifying for the race on Sunday. Fords, they're looking pretty good at this track traditionally. Remember, Eric Almirola got to one here a couple years ago. I think overall, this could be a track for Christopher Bell, who's in a Toyota. But Christopher Bell made some big news. He slipped up, and this was something you all might find funny as well, too. Silly season. Martin Truex announced he's leaving, going to the 19 car. They asked his teammate Christopher Bell in the press conference, what do you think about the leadership dynamic? And he's answering, it's like, so it doesn't matter when Chase comes in. He essentially leaked out that Chase is going to be going from Stewart Haas Racing to Joe Gibbs Racing. I encourage everyone, go on YouTube, find this clip, because as soon as Christopher Bell realized he did this, he just stops and is like, I don't know what to say. Whoever the driver of the 19 will be, and it's like, well, you leaked it out there. It's going to be Chase Briscoe. I highly doubt it's going to be Chase Elliott. I would eat a hat on camera if that was the case. But what a moment. Talk about not letting the team secrets out. Christopher Bell made that big mistake. But overall, we're going to recap each of the races tomorrow, full length, starting with IndyCar, NASCAR, F1. And we encourage everyone to subscribe to us right here on the Grid Network so you don't miss any of our programs. We thank everyone for tuning in, and be sure to keep investing in us. We appreciate all the investments lately. Hitting over 1,000 subscribers help us get to 2,000. And of course, buy me a coffee or YouTube Super Chat, especially for our Grid Network team. We're trying to get more folks to the track. I know next weekend, Nicole and I, we're going to be at Portland International Raceway for Formula E. So we'll be bringing you trackside coverage. And then, of course, we have ambitious goals where we're going to try to get some folks to a Formula One race this year. So keep investing in us. We'll love to make this all possible. And We have some changes coming here in the grid network thanks to everyone's investment. So the team here is excited, and we're very excited for you, the investors, to keep investing in us. For Mara and Nicole, I'm Joe. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time, and enjoy the races.